Hey there folks, my name is Peter and today we're talking boat maintenance. That's right folks, so I've got a 24-foot pontoon with a 90 or 95 Mercury outboard on it. I just picked it up from winter storage where I did have them winterize it, but they gave me a sheet that explained how much it would cost to get it ready for summer. $500 for the oil change. Now supposedly they're going to check the wires and make sure the mice didn't get into them and all that, but that just seemed like a lot of money to me. So I went on mercruiserparts.com, based in Florida. Wonderful customer service. They really helped me narrow down what it was that I needed for this project, and I decided to do it myself. Now, I've never done this before, so this is really not a how-to video, but if you own a similar boat and you're trying to learn from someone else before you do it yourself, you can watch this video. There is a bunch of fantastic, really good tutorials, so I'll try my best to explain what I'm doing, but again, I'm learning alongside all of you, and my hope is that for all my marine experts watching, you'll be able to tell me what I'm doing right and wrong. Before we get into the service, let's check out what all was sent to us. Now, I think technically speaking, I purchased enough supplies to do the 300-hour service, which is basically the 100-hour service plus spark plugs and a new impeller. I'm not going to do the impeller today, and then the spark plugs, I'm going to see how easy they are to get to if I think I can do it. I want to be able to do this whole job in less than 4 hours, and I've heard that that fourth spark plug is a little finicky, so we may save that alongside the impeller for next year, but depending on how easy it is to access, we could do it all today. So first things first, let's just pull all this out and get it on the table here. So we have the impeller, but like I said, we're going to save this for next year. We're not going to do the impeller today. We have our 4 NGK spark plugs. We may use those today. And then we've got a new fuel filter. Looks like some crush washers, O-rings, etc. This is our oil filter. And then look at that. They included a Mercury Marine BAM koozie. So that's again, bammarine.com. I haven't obviously used any of this stuff yet, but my experience with customer service, like I said, was fantastic. So be sure to check them out. Well, box number 2 is 3 more boxes. All right, what's inside this box? All right, so this is our SAE 90 gear lube. Hopefully we bought enough of this. This is 32 ounces, so we got 64. I also bought this quick stop fuel stabilizer. So this is the gear lube pump, right? So on the outboards, we have basically the upper unit oil, which is the engine oil, then the lower unit oil, which is the gear oil. And the gear oil, you just sort of pump in. So I think it's a 10mm bolt that we're gonna take off right after we remove the propeller, and then we'll pump it in with this until it stops coming out of the hole that you'll see. Now we're getting into our engine oil. So this is our Marine 4-stroke SAE 10W30. So basically we start with this and then we end with all this. This is everything that we should need to do a 100-hour service. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to like and subscribe. And let's get to it. So I'm gonna skip the step. I took the battery off the charger. It says it's reading it's full, which is great. We're just gonna get it a little clean before we reinstall it. And of course we have to reinstall it before we can do all of our service, because otherwise the trim won't work. So I have this 2-step battery cleaner and battery corrosion preventative from NOCO. I don't remember where I bought this. I'm gonna assume Amazon, but, and of course it comes with this little tool, right? So you can use this to clean off the leads here, and then this little brush for your connectors on the boat itself. I actually have a bunch of these and I don't have one in the boat toolkit, so I'm gonna throw this in there. So we'll spray a little bit of this cleaner on there. I do see a little bit of buildup over here, so we'll wipe that off. And then the step 2, I think, is just a spray and forget it. And I've used this on all kinds of batteries. Wipe off our overspray, and then we're ready to get the battery reinstalled on the boat. So this is our vessel. I think it's a 2016, I'm honestly not sure. We bought it during COVID, there wasn't a ton of inventory at the time, but gets the job done. This is where we're gonna be spending most of our time. I have reinstalled the battery. Of course, I have to clean this thing at some point, but for now we'll focus on the mechanical. It's got this little arm here. So when you're trailering it, you put it up and then you rest it on this. But now we wanna be able to trim it down. So I'm gonna close that, trim this down enough to be able to get the cover off. And so I could see some of the coolant draining, but on these, and this is the first time I've done this, so again, not a how-to, but this little number here which might require, I don't really want to use maybe an adjustable wrench. So I don't want to mar this plastic. There we go. So I'm given to understand that, you know, if you do a lot of boating in salt water, when you get done for the day, what you're meant to do is hook up your hose to this and drain all of, basically clear out the whole system. But I'm going to do the same thing here before we actually start on any of our fluid changes. Okay, so you all got to see this before I did. I'm not sure what we were able to get out of there, but we're basically going to let this run for 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure that we're starting from something that is nice and clean, and then we'll get on to our fluids. Now later in the video, after we do all of our fluid changes, we will hook up the hose down at the actual water intake. And for that, I have this pair of muffs. Now I've never used these before, but they say that they'll work on an engine of this size, so we'll see. And of course, if they do work well, I will leave a link in the description below. So now that that's been running for about 10 minutes, we'll go ahead and shut the water off. While it was running, I went ahead and grabbed all of the tools and stuff that I think we're gonna need for today's job. But truthfully, this is the most important thing. So this is our checklist for today. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything. You all can keep me honest, but I just find that it helps make sure I stay on track. I don't get lost in the noise, because obviously there's a lot here, right? It's easy to get overwhelmed, especially, I mean, this is my first time doing this, so I want to do it right. This is everything I think I have to do, as well as the tools that I think I need to do it with, so it should make for a pretty easy project, hopefully. So before we remove the prop, let's get our engine cover off of here so we can perform our visual inspection. All right, these wires look good. Looks like those are our fuel injectors, spark plugs. I don't see anything out of the ordinary there. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that fourth one looks a little tough to get to. Wires over here, everything looks good. I don't see any mouse nests. I do see some spider nests, but that is to be expected on the water. So this is the only 1/2-inch breaker bar that I have. It's actually a Craftsman made in USA, which is pretty cool. And then this is a 1 in 1/16 socket. Now I only have a 12-point, and as you all know, I do not like using 12-point sockets on 6-point nuts, because you always get a little bit of marring, or at least a little more than I would like. So I will be buying a 6-point version of this at some point in the near future. Now I'm definitely not an expert at doing this, but I have replaced this prop a time or two. And the first time I did it, I reinstalled it incorrectly. And when I did, I took the boat out in the water to test drive it, and the whole thing just flew right off. So that was a pretty hard lesson to have to learn. Hopefully you all don't have to learn that as well. So I got the prop off. This all looks pretty good. One thing of note, there's this little plastic white ring. Now the way that it was explained to me is that this is a cavitation ring. And I actually have an extra one here, because at one point in time this boat, I was having some problems where over certain RPMs it would just like go back down, right? So I'd get up to 5,000 RPMs and it'd go back to 1,000. And what was explained to me is that it was a cavitation problem. And I had tried a bunch of stuff at home. I replaced the fuel filter, I did all sorts of stuff. Nothing worked. I brought it to the shop, you know, $400 or $500 later. They said, oh, it's this $2 part. So I'm not going to replace this today because this one is fine. But what I think happens is that these pieces, these tabs break off, and then this whole thing just becomes useless. So keep an eye on that when you're doing this project. Let us start to drain the gear oil. That's coming out quite slowly. Now what should make it drain a little better, if we can get some airflow in there. So if we take out this plug, there we go, now it's draining pretty good. So this was our first time using our snap-on marine plug screwdriver, and you're using it for this little screw right here. That's the only job for this screwdriver. Now while that's draining, we're also going to drain the engine oil. Now you could drain the engine oil without the step that I'm going to do, but I think it'll make it a lot cleaner. So we've got this 1/2-inch diameter tube that we're going to put around here. And then in that way, we're going to be able to direct the oil right into our catch can instead of just letting it drain all the way down the side of it. All right, there goes the oil. So the way that it was explained to me is that we don't take this all the way out, right? You put this tube over it, I just let it run down the tube. So what that does, right, is we're draining the oil directly into our catch can, as opposed to, if you don't do this, it's gonna run all the way down the side of your boat. So while this is draining, why don't we swap out the oil filter. Now here's one thing about doing this stuff yourself, and the reason why I appreciate it. The marina used a Napa, presumably an auto oil filter. Now I'm scared to know what sort of oil they put in this thing, but you are not supposed to mix, at least what I'm given to understand, is that you don't mix automotive and marine oils, filters, plugs, you name it, right? The marine industry is very particular about making use of only that which is specifically formulated for marine applications. So I'm not super thrilled that they did that, and of course, they put this on there with a torque wrench, so let's get our oil filter wrench. So this is our new oil filter, and this is the part number that Mercury recommends for this application. This is the old one. And of course they look similar, but again, the marina shouldn't be mixing parts like this. As always, we will coat the top of our new filter with a little film of oil and just slide it back on there. Again, these are supposed to be hand tight. Okay. So when we run this in the driveway with the muffs on, we'll check for leaks and all that, but that feels pretty good to me. 526, 24. So while everything's draining, that seal is stuck. So in the kit, they give you a new one of these. So this was for the lower unit plug, and then there's another one. So this one looks like it's in a little better shape, but we're gonna replace both of them. And you know, it's funny, people are always like, well, when will I need to grab the side of a quarter? I'll tell you what, getting these little seals out of there, the snap-on plier worked perfectly. And then just for reference, here's the new seals on our screws. All right, so our engine oil's done draining. Tell you what, this tube could not have worked any better. Okay, all right, let's fill her up with some oil. And if you're ever wondering how much, oil to use and what to do, Mercury's got a great sticker on the back here. So we're gonna use 5.5 quarts of oil. Got our little jug here. So we're gonna be able to fill it up to the fill line, and it should take all the guesswork out of it. You probably don't need this fill jug, but I think this is gonna make this whole process quite a bit easier. All right, so that is 5 quarts. So now with this last one, just gonna go with a half a bottle until we get to our 5.5 line, then we'll fill it up. As long as this fill jug doesn't leak when we use it, I think that this was a great purchase. All right, now my understanding of this process is that we've got our gear loop threaded into the fill plug. We're gonna pump it up. Now it's actually gonna come out the other side because we're gonna effectively flush it a little bit. All right, so now it's starting to come out the side, which is good. We're gonna flush it. Should be good. All right, now that all of our fluids are in here, let's put some marine grease on our splines here. One question I have for the audience, am I supposed to be replacing this every time? So this is a new one. I actually have a lot of these because again, when I broke the prop the first time, I bought all of the stuff that I would need to do this. But are you supposed to replace that every time? Please, someone let me know. All right, folks, new oil, new engine oil, new oil filter, new gear case oil. That took me almost 4 hours, which is what I thought it might. What I didn't do this year is the spark plugs, impeller, fuel filter. We'll do that next year. I think this impeller definitely needs to be changed, but I think we have 1 more year and then we'll go from there. The muffs work great. I'll have a link to those on Amazon, and then I'm gonna do a separate video like I did for the lawnmower in which I go over every single tool that I made use of on this project. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the very next video.